I feel like most of my recent videos are inspired by my conversations on LinkedIn, which is fine because it means these are things people are talking about and potentially debating. So today, I want to discuss the purpose of a flat sketch and why I believe they won't and shouldn't be replaced by a 3D rendering. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mikkel Drew Pelham. I talk about digital fashion design software and communication on this channel. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. So this topic is a particularly hot button for me, not just because I really like flat sketches, but also because I stress purpose to my students. Creating art for art's sake is fine if you're doing it as a hobby or for your own pleasure, or if your job is to be an artist. But although it can be said that fashion is art and designers create art all the time, there's only a small segment of us in the fashion industry that have to do that. The rest of us get to create art combined with commerce. And so while what you're creating might be very artful, the purpose of what you're creating is not art. It's to sell clothing to a particular customer who is buying from you because your clothing solves a particular problem for them. If your brand doesn't solve their clothing related problem, they will shop with someone else. And at the end of the day, the brand, the business's end game is to make a profit, period, full stop. Now, you can do that ethically. The company may have philanthropic goals. There might be some higher purpose to what you're doing, but somehow the business needs to make a profit to stay in business. Even nonprofits have to generate income so it can continue doing its work. So what does this all have to do with flat sketches? Flats have become a sketch that is used so universally that many who are newer to the industry don't realize the original purpose of a flat sketch. A flat sketch communicates the silhouette, fit, and details of your design. And the initial intent was for them to be handed off to a pattern maker. This is why these are the sketches that are used in a tech pack. They provide the clearest understanding of how to pattern your design and how to construct it. Could you do that with a 3D rendering? Sure. But look at this, then look at this. And I want you to tell me which one conveys the construction and design details the best. The 3D rendering for sure does an excellent job of showing fit expression and silhouette. But because the details don't show as clearly, which they aren't really meant to, it's meant to look like a real garment, they can easily get lost or forgotten. For example, there is stitching around the neck and on the sleeves of this tee, but you barely see that on the 3D rendering. And you shouldn't. In real life, the stitching is dyed to match the garment, so it's not supposed to be so obvious. And real talk, samples are way too expensive for a fashion entrepreneur to have to redo them because the sketch they sent didn't communicate the details as clearly as they should have been. Now, I am of the opinion that having both on the tech pack can be very beneficial. You can see all of the design and construction details easily and clearly on the flat sketch, but you understand the fit intent best on the 3D rendering. This is why I feel like the argument that one should replace the other isn't valid. I believe that one complements the other. The person I was discussing this with said that they have more vendors who are comfortable buying their line from 3D CADs, and that's never happened before. I totally agree with her. One of the things many companies will do is develop physical samples simultaneously with digital samples to get used to and build confidence in the integrity of the 3D sample. So the fact that companies are starting to feel comfortable with writing orders from 3D CADs is a huge win. However, they're still buying physical product, which means eventually a physical garment has to be made. So someone has to sew a sample, and before that make a pattern, and before that create a tech pack so the pattern maker knows what they're making a pattern of. A sketch needs to be added to that tech pack, and as I mentioned previously, the best sketch to clearly communicate the details that a pattern maker needs to make that pattern is a flat sketch. Now listen, those of you who are independent designers might have a different workflow where you just have a quick or rough sketch. You skip the flat sketch altogether and go straight to 3D. Understandable. You, the designer, are doing the work, so you don't have to explain to anyone else what you want. I do think a flat sketch, even a quick flat sketch, will help you work out and fine-tune a lot of your details before you sit down to work in your 3D fashion software. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you may have heard me say before that you always want to approach your digital tools with a plan. Otherwise, unless your intention is just to play, you won't be very productive, or at least as productive as you could be. So having some type of sketch is necessary. If you're the one doing the work in 3D, it's not as crucial to have the flat sketch. However, if you're handing off to a manufacturer, even if you're handing off to a freelancer who's going to create your 3D renderings for you, I would strongly suggest you do a flat sketch. It's only going to help to get the best result from the person you're working with. I am admittedly an OG in the fashion game. I'm going on 28 years in this industry. But I like to make sure I'm keeping up with the latest technology. One, so I can keep you all informed. And two, so I'm not that person who will keep arguing for old methods that no longer serve the fashion community. But I'm also curious and careful about what I adopt and what I drop. Yes, technology addresses and improves a lot of outdated methods. But just because something has been around for a while doesn't mean it's no longer valid or useful. Examine the purpose of that technique and understand if the new technology is really best to replace it, or perhaps it can complement. But let's not be so quick to drop something just because you're trying to find a faster way to operate. The faster method isn't always the most effective. Thanks for watching today's video. If you need help creating clearer, more effective flat sketches for your tech packs, check out the link in the description to sign up for my Illustrator for Fashion Sketching course. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time.